Welcome to the Kids with Big Emotions podcast. I am your host, Andi Cleric, and we are diving into our second last episode of the Executive Function series that I am doing here on this podcast. Initiation is what we are going to be diving in today. It is our first of the log skills in our series on executive functioning. If you've been following along, you'll already know that we've covered the foundational kindling skills. So these are perception, attention, verbal working memory, nonverbal working memory, and inhibition. If you missed those episodes, I highly recommend that you go back because all of these log skills build on top of that. So these kindling skills that we've already covered, they are the base of a fire, the kindling. They are essential for igniting and sustaining executive functioning. Without them, the higher level log skills, of which we are doing today with initiation, the log skills are initiation, self-monitoring, self-modulation, pacing, self-correcting, time sense, and cognitive flexibility. So that very black and white thinking, right and wrong, which we're covering in the next episode. The flame skills are where they can't plan, prioritize, organize themselves, decision-making, generating and associating things together, analyzing. All of these skills rely on the kindling skills that we have already focused on, that I've already done episodes on. So if you think of this, it's almost like a house where we need that strong foundation. So those kindling skills that we've already covered are that foundation. And you can't add the walls, the roof, do the interior of that house, which are the logs and the flame skills, until you have a very strong kindling, a very strong foundation. So when these foundational skills are strong, that's when our kids are really better equipped to now take this skill, this initiation skill that I'm going to be talking about today, and in the next episode, cognitive flexibility, and is able to take those and really help those logs to burn that fire so that they can then work on the higher flame skills, the planning, prioritizing, analyzing, decision-making. All of the things that we often see in our kids and get frustrated for require all of these base skills. And if those skills aren't there yet, then these log skills that I'm going to be talking about today, this initiation, is going to be a struggle for them, because initiation builds on all of these kindling skills, and it's that critical bridge in order to get to the log skills. And from the log skills, you need those strong to bridge and get you to those flame skills of planning, organization, and decision making. So strengthening initiation isn't just about helping your child start a task. It's really about giving them the tools to sustain as they grow. So this is a huge one for me. This is actually one of my sons really struggles with initiation. And this has affected so many things in life. Him following through on things that he said he would do, him getting assignments done, working on his courses, just his initiation, starting anything, things that we know that he loves to do. Getting started on that first step is a struggle. So this is really, really dear to my heart for me. With parents, they may observe their child struggling to start tasks, even when the child understands what needs to be done. Maybe they've done it 100 times before. And then they have this hesitation as well that leads to procrastination, that has them missing deadlines. And it really becomes frustrating for both the child and the parent, because we're like, we've already told you to do this 10 times, and why aren't you doing this? And the thing is that we notice once the child starts, they might be really good. This is my one child, is once he starts it, he's good. It's that initial task of actually getting it started. So the definition of initiation is the ability to begin tasks or activities independently. So without help from you, knowing that it has to be done and going and doing it, taking that initiative to start and do things. It involves overcoming procrastination and hesitation to get started on tasks that really might seem daunting or unappealing. And as I'm saying this, I mean, this is for all of us. This happens to us all in our daily lives, where there are certain things where we have no trouble starting. And there's other things where we procrastinate, where we hesitate to get started on the task, and they're different for each individual person of us. So what you might observe in a child that struggles with initiation is the child may need cues to start a task. So they may not be able to start it independently. Once they have cues, they might be okay. They may not know where or how to start a task. They may frequently procrastinate. You may just watch them do everything else but what you have asked them to do. They may report feeling overwhelmed with the task. This is huge for homework. Homework is a huge one for initiation, where they may actually stare at their work without getting it started. This would be my son. I would go into his room, and after a half hour, 45 minutes going, how's it going? And he's like, good. Like, show me what you've got done. And there's nothing there. Blank screen, blank paper, whatever it was, things weren't started. This, especially for him, was with creative writing assignments. Although now that he homeschools and stuff, I see that it's really with everything. It's with almost anything that is new for him, schoolwork wise. And then it becomes preferred versus non-preferred in his schoolwork. When it comes to other things like, oh man, this kid loves curling. He loves to be on the ice all of the time, as much as he can be. And it's fascinating because as soon as he gets off, he wants to do it again, but it's the starting to get there to do it another time. If I have it booked in a calendar and ready to go, he's good, but he won't do it on his own yet. He thanks me for getting him there, but he needs cues in order to start the task. He still needs, if we go back to that definition, its initiation is the ability to begin the task or activity independently. And he cannot independently get ice time booked and get himself over to the ice in order to practice curling. So it's just fascinating. And it's something he loves to do, and he loves to be there. So initiation, I touched on this at the very, very start, in order to start a task confidently and effectively, you really, really need to have strong kindling skills, because initiation falls under the log skills. So the kindling is what you need in order to start that fire. It's what you need in order to get things going. And the log skills, you need really strong logs to keep those flames going in the fire, but you can't get the logs going without strong kindling skills. So perception. With perception, they first need to notice what needs to be done and understand their surroundings. So in order to start homework as well, they may not perceive that they study better in a certain place. They may not perceive what task needs to be done. So what are the first step? They may not be able to perceive what the teacher is asking of them. They may not be able to perceive what you're asking of them. The perception as well of, is this hard? Is this too tough of a task? Or how long is this task going to take? Is really going to affect the child starting this task. So their perception of time, of what this task truly involves, needs to be correct in order for them to be able to initiate the task. Attention. They may be focusing on other tasks at hand and resisting distractions. So they may not perceive that this task is important right now or priority, or they may perceive that they should be doing a preferred task over this non-preferred task. And so their attention then goes to a preferred task versus this non-preferred task, which they're struggling to start with. Their attention may be on all kinds of other things as well. They may need to be working on an assignment for math in homework, but their attention is on another assignment or what somebody else said, or a shiny object in front of them, or a song, a favorite song that they have, or for my kids, building out a Pokemon deck. Their attention may be on something else, and they may not be able to start the task because of where their attention is. Then there have the working memory. We have both verbal and nonverbal working memory. You need to be able to hold the steps and visualize what this task is going to take in order to start this task. And if your verbal or your nonverbal working memory is struggling, which I dive into individual episodes on those, individual courses on those, course lessons on those, in order for you to really see the difference between verbal and nonverbal working memory. But if one of those is struggling with your child, they will struggle to start with initiation on tasks. And with inhibition, if they can't pause and think about prioritizing and starting the task over distractions or impulses, then they will continually go to their non-preferred tasks over they will continually go to their preferred tasks over non-preferred tasks. So it's really important to understand that in order for a child to initiate, in order for a child to be able to start things that you've asked them to do around the house, if you want them to start things on their own, for them to do their homework, for them to follow through with things at school, initiation, they need to already have strong base kindling skills. And so they may have one kindling skill that is struggling. They may have many kindling skills that are struggling. And it's important to really understand that we need a strong kindling skill first. And then we're going to go one step higher to planning. Planning is a fire skill. Planning is that flame skill. It's what we see. And it is a high level skill that requires so many different log skills and all the kindling skills in order to be able to start a task. They need to really know all of the steps of this plan. And if they're being expected to create all of these steps themselves before they have a strong kindling foundational base and a strong log base of the log skills, then they are going to struggle to plan. And when you can't plan on your own, you're going to struggle with initiating any task that is being asked of you. So this is where understanding that planning is a higher level skill than starting a task, that sometimes we need to help a child with all of the steps and all of the planning until they are able to do it themselves. And I want to say that we could be talking about a high school, college level. We could be talking about one of your colleagues that's an adult. We could be talking about you yourself, right? Until you have strong kindling skills and log skills, it will be hard to plan. And planning is a big part of understanding all of the steps in order to start tasks. It's like this vicious circle a little bit, that you may need to give more support on planning in order for a child to be able to start a task. And eventually your goal is to get them to be able to do the planning, the higher level skill, but we build on all of those skills. The more taxed or overwhelmed a child's brain is, the harder it is for their executive functioning skills to operate effectively. So if we have a child that can easily accomplish their math one day, can do it no problem, they do their homework, they're fine. And then we have another day that they're struggling to even get started with it. Sometimes it's important to stop and think about, or without meltdowns and, all of the frustrations that go along with it. It's really important to start thinking about what stressors have been placed on this child. For one of my kids, it was going to school. Going to school, there were so many noises, so much visually that he took in, because his auditory and his visual processing is through the roof, which in one sense is absolutely crazy what this kid can remember and take in, but the overwhelm of it how much it taxed his brain, how exhausting it was to take in all that he took in every single day, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the noises, everything was such stimulation overload that there was no way that he could do math at all or do any of his homework when he had come home from school. And he could not start anything because all of his executive functioning skills were just exhausted. So starting that task was beyond what he was capable of doing because his executive functioning system had been so taxed at school. Could be things of staying up late, or like having a fun event, being at like a wedding or a party, or, some fun event the night before. Maybe they had a sports event. So thinking about this with high school, college kids, what did they have the night before is really going to affect them the next day on what their capabilities are. And so you might see that they are great at initiating some days, and some days they struggle. And that is so dependent on the child. So dependent on each child as to what those stressors are that tax their executive functioning system. But if you do start seeing some inconsistency where you're like, well, they had no trouble at all with this language arts assignment in starting it and initiating it and getting it done, but this other day they are, then I would really look into how tired are they? What's been stressing them out? Is this just a day where that executive functioning skill of theirs is taxed and it's just not possible for them? It could be that that skill is struggling a little bit, but most of the days they're fine with it. But when they are exhausted, when they are stressed, when something has been hitting them, for me, it used to be going down the grocery aisle where all the fragrances were, where all of the cleaning products were, would take everything out of me for the rest of the day. So it may be things that you're not even aware of or thinking of that could all of a sudden just drain all your child's energy, that they can't start anything that you're asking them to do. So when people do procrastinate, when they're struggling with initiation, when they're struggling to start a task, there usually are some base reasons for that. First is that they're overwhelmed by the length of the task or the task itself. Now, if we go back to what we talked about before, that could be their perception, right? My one son, this is him. This is a big one for him. So he often thinks something is going to take so long to do. And this used to be me in cleaning the bathrooms. It used to help me. I used to think that it was going to take me so long to clean the bathrooms. Now, part of it is that I have this perception of what a clean bathroom looks like, and my perfectionism would rear its head. So my cognitive flexibility was playing a part in this. My perception of what it took to clean a bathroom was like through the roof, and it had to be done at a certain standard all of the time. My standards changed a little bit once I had kids and learned that it just wasn't possible, but I had to do what I could do. And I could procrastinate for 4 or 5 hours when honestly, it takes me about a half hour to clean our bathroom. Our bathroom's not huge. It's a toilet, a sink, and a tub. And that includes really, really scrubbing every single tile on the tub. I can do that in 30 minutes. But I'd procrastinate forever because in my mind, the perfectionism that was required, that my perception of what this task required was, I had such a high standard for it that I felt like I was going to fail in my perception and my cognitive flexibility, that it overwhelmed me. And I thought that the length of the task to get it to where I needed it to be standard wise and perfection wise was just so daunting, I couldn't start. And this is how it happens with your kids with homework. When you ask them to clean the bathroom, when you ask them, they may even have a perception that they can't live up to your standard of cleanliness. And I'm going to tell you, this was my mom. My mom, like, there's not a dust speck around. She is so clean. And so I expected when she asked me to do things that I had to do it completely to her standards, that I felt I was going to fail. And I was overwhelmed by the length of the task or the task itself because of the perception that I felt that I had to live up to be at my mom's standards when I was still learning how to clean bathrooms when I was younger, right? The second one is where people procrastinate, or where that initiation or starting a task is a big struggle, is because they don't know where to start. And that is, as I said, can often be a planning situation, which is a higher level log skill. So this is where I find that there's this jump. It can still happen in elementary, absolutely, that a child can have homework come home and not at all know where to start. Like just not know where to start on it. My one son, 3 times in his school year with 3 phenomenal teachers that could usually get any child to do anything that they needed to do, that other teachers asked for help, like amazing teachers, pulled me aside and went, I can't get them to do this assignment. And it was 2 of the assignments were the same. The other one was still, they were abstract thinking. One was in kindergarten and one was in grade 4, where they had to mix animals together to create one animal. Now, one was more advanced in what the teacher was asking them to do, but that was the essentials of what they had to do. My son couldn't do it because he didn't know where to start. How do you mix this? What do you mix? He's so literal, but this animal actually has a tail. This actually goes back to the perfectionism or the perception as well. But a lion has a tail like this, and a beaver has a different tail. How can I mix them? Right? In his mind, he didn't even know how to plan this and how to start it. Well, you get to pick either a tail of a lion or a tail of a beaver to put on this new animal. So we had to change the perception that this is a new animal. We're just mixing pieces of 2 animals to make a new animal and an imaginary one. And which pieces of which ones do you want to do? So you would actually have to create a plan with him of, okay, which do you want to take a tail from? Do you want to take it from the beaver or do you want to take it from the lion? Okay, which teeth did you want to take? Which, body, which fur color or textures, or which feet did you want to take? And we had to do one by one, and I had to walk him through that plan. He didn't know where to start and actually how to follow the plan for it. Which to some people it seems so simple, but to my son, anything abstract that was not linear, black and white, which is why he loves math and science, is he really struggled with. And so they don't know where to start, or their perception and cognitive flexibility, which next lesson is cognitive flexibility. But that is where, like, he was being asked to do something that wasn't real. And in his mind, if it's not real, it doesn't exist. Cognitive flexibility, there's only one way to do things, right? It took us years and years and years to get him to go from reading nonfiction books to reading fiction, which was one of these amazing teachers, is the first person to ever get him to read a fiction. He started with Roald Dahl and he loved it. And now we read all these mystical creatures, science fiction, fantasy, and he loves these books now and devours them. But we had to work on that cognitive flexibility of his brain to think of, it's okay if something's not real and it's imaginary. So all of these things play a part in initiating and starting a task. And so not knowing where to start, you may ask your child to clean a bathroom and they may not just know where to start. They know that the sink, the toilets, and the tub need to be cleaned, but they don't know what the first step is. What is the first step? And sometimes just walking them through those steps, they can get going and they're good to go on that. My son as well, in creative writing projects, it was always the first sentence. The first sentence stumped him. So we've worked a lot with ChatGPT to help him with, okay, what are 10 ideas that I can talk about in this creative writing project? And then he'll keep refining it down. It's still his ideas. He's like, I like this one. What are 10 talking points that I can have for this? What are 10 starting sentences? So ChatGPT might give him this starting sentence, although he had to give it all the proper prompts to get there. It'll give him the first sentence, and from there, he's okay. Not knowing where to start or struggling with that first step is really is part of the second reason as to why people procrastinate or they struggle to start a task. The third one of 3 is they have difficult beginning a task that's not preferred or desirable. They don't want to do it. Like, I don't like doing this. And that leads into perception. It's where their attention goes in. It's inhibition, being able to stop and pause the preferred task. and to move on to the non-preferred tasks. So a lot of the base foundational kindling skills go into that, of the preferred versus non-preferred. Also, we get into cognitive flexibility. Well, I don't like doing that. I don't want to do that. And realizing, kind of having them learn that in life, we do have to do things we don't like to do. The thing is telling a child that is so cognitively flexible that they'll be like, well, why? I'm not doing that. I don't have to, and you're not going to make me. You have to come around in working with that cognitive flexibility in very different ways to help them see that non-preferred tasks are important and why we have to do them. And this goes back to what I was speaking about, nonverbal working memory. It was where a child can see into the future. And like younger kids can only see a couple of days, couple of hours. I think it's high school's only a couple of weeks. I'd have to go back to that. I could be saying the absolute wrong time frames, but a high school kid can only see a couple of weeks. That they're like, well, why would I need, to study for this when my SATs are 4 or 5 years down the road, or 4 years down the road when they're in first year? Why do I need to start preparing for that? That's 4 years down the road when they can only see 2 to 3 weeks. So we really need to start breaking down these tasks and making them so that they work within the timeframes of this child, for where they can actually see, and they can see the purpose and the reasons of these as well, in order to even get them started. To recap on what I just said, the people procrastinate, or kids procrastinate, struggle to start tasks for several reasons. One is overwhelmed by the task length or the task itself. 2 is they don't know where to start, planning, organizing, analyzing, decision-making. And 3 is difficult beginning the task that's not preferred or desirable. Now, as we've talked about with all of the executive functioning lessons that we have spoke with, you may notice when your child maybe was young that they struggled with getting into tasks and initiating tasks. And then you may have found in later elementary or in middle school that they became really good at it. And then all of a sudden in high school, they struggled again. And this goes back to what I was speaking of earlier, where when a child gets more taxed, so high school, there's more demands on that child. There's more, the hormones hitting for the growth spurts as well. You may find during a growth spurt that things that these executive functioning struggles that your child had grown out of all of a sudden start hitting again. And you're like, whoa, where'd this come out of, right? And it's because of how much a growth spurt taxes that child. You may find all of a sudden they're having these big emotions again. They're frustrated, they get angry again, or they're not doing things that you're asking them to do. They might start becoming cognitive inflexible again. Like all of these things just start hitting. They might start struggling with homework or certain academic things that they had mastered that used to be hard for them. Things like that is really important to start looking at. What growth stage are they in? Have they entered a new stage of life, living on your own in university, going off to all of these different things? The cognitive load on that child becomes huge, and it taxes their executive functioning system. And you may find that all of a sudden a child isn't cleaning up after themselves. They're not making them food again. They're not doing their laundry like in college. They're not things that they were able to do in high school. And they're not getting assignments done. They're forgetting to hand in their homework again. You may find all of these things once they get to a different stage, and that starts hitting them. All right. So with all of the executive functioning lessons, or the executive functioning series that we've done here on this podcast, I have an intake form. This is an intake form that I have all over in my support circle. It really helps the parents to see where their child is struggling with each executive functioning skill. Now, I'm going to warn you, this is a beast, because I have every single executive functioning skill on this form. And every single skill has about 15 to 20 questions or statements for each about the child. So if you want to just go to the form and look at the initiation, just go in, click on initiation on the left side, and it'll bring you right to the initiation questions, and you don't have to look at any of the other questions. Go through one block at a time. Don't go through the whole form. It can be so overwhelming. The link, though, is in the show notes of the podcast, and I have this all over in the support circle. Go through this at your leisure. Go through it as you're learning each executive functioning skill. The form is there for you to go through and start really seeing your child's struggles from a different lens. So the questions for the intake form for initiation are: frequently procrastinates, putting off tasks even when they know what needs to be done. Now on the form, what you'll see is it's listed as often, sometimes, never, and in the past. Think of those as you're going through this, and it'll help you see, because you might find, remember what I just said about in the past? This might have been in the past and it's not there, but you might find at another stage when they go through another stressor in life that these things appear. So frequently procrastinates, putting off tasks even when they know what needs to be done. Often, sometimes, never, or in the past. Struggles to start tasks even when they understand exactly what needs to be done. Often puts off starting activities that seem overwhelming or difficult, even if they are tasks that others might find easy. And I'm going to say to that one too. Often puts off starting activities that seem overwhelming and difficult to them, even if they are tasks that they have done easily in the past. That could be another one. I need to change that one. Avoid starting tasks they don't enjoy, even when they know the task needs to be completed. Hesitates to start activities that require them to take initiative or make decisions on their own. Struggles to start homework, chores, or other responsibilities without frequent reminders. Needs cues or prompts in order to begin tasks. Frequently asks for help or says they don't know where to start, even when the steps have been explained or they've done it before. Struggles to complete tasks that are undesirable or difficult. Has difficulty starting tasks that are enjoyable, even though they usually love them once they begin. So this is my son, as I was saying, with curling and even some of his subjects. I know computer applications. He had in his mind that it was going to be so tough and so boring and such a big thing, and he's gotten into it and he loves it, but he still struggles to start it whenever he gets to a new lesson in his computer applications. They may stare at their work for an extended time without starting it. They may often seem unsure of how to begin tasks or assignments, even if they've done them before. They have trouble getting started on multi-step projects or tasks. And they struggle to initiate activities in group settings, such as joining a game or a class discussion without prompts or reminders. So initiation. So those are all of the questions from the intake form. If you want to go back and look at them, the link is in the show notes. The link is below this lesson if you're getting these in the support circle. It's also all over in the support circle, because this form is just amazing in how you can start asking me questions based on it, and I can start helping support you and your child based on what you're really finding on this form. If you haven't filled it out, just do remember it's a beast, and you don't have to do the whole form at once. You can do pieces of it as you're going through lessons or as you're discovering. I would highly suggest to solely do the kindling at the start and maybe do 1 or 2 kindling at a time. Initiation refers to the ability to independently start tasks and activities. This was our definition at the start. It's really not about overcoming procrastination, but also about having the confidence and motivation to begin, especially when tasks seem daunting or unappealing. So when I say this now, after we've gone through everything of you understanding what all goes into starting a task, the perception of the task, the ability to plan and know where to start a task, all of the cognitive flexibility of this task. There's so many skills, where there's attention is, if they can inhibit it with their verbal and nonverbal working memory, can they even remember what you're asking of them? All of these things go into it. So if we can look at it from this other lens and give these kids the confidence, the motivation, and the skills and the tools so that this task doesn't seem daunting or unappealing, that is our goal with our child with initiation struggles, is to really work through so that they start having the confidence. So my one son now, he notices when he's struggling to start a task, and he'll come to me and he'll go, Mom, I'm struggling to start this thing. Can you help me? Walk me through it. And so he's at that stage, and we're slowly giving him the confidence to start understanding the steps that he needs to take to get himself back on track on starting it by himself. At the moment, he still needs my support to walk through it, but he's come so far in noticing that he's doing it and asking for help and not being ashamed about it, not being frustrated. I'm not yelling and frustrated with him. I know that this is where he struggles. And so that's where we are working on building the skill, his confidence, his motivation to begin, and taking that overwhelm out of starting tasks for him by helping build the skills that he's lacking to start those tasks. Challenges with initiation. Let's talk about them a little bit and how they can manifest across different developmental stages. So in elementary school, you might see a child hesitate to start homework or chores without constant reminders. There's other reasons why they don't start. As we said, there's those kindling skills. So it could be that their attention, they may have ADHD and their focus is all over the place, and they may squirrel at everything. There may be different reasons for that, but if you do start seeing that they struggle with everything all the time and starting with that first step, then that's where you might say, I wonder if this is an initiation thing with my child, but you still do need to go back to those kindling skills. In middle school, they might delay starting projects. So they're really pushing things off to the end and procrastinating, even when they're aware of the deadline, leading to last minute rushing and incomplete work. That could be an initiation struggle. In high school, they may procrastinate on studying for exams or initiating college applications, despite understanding their importance. And in college, they may struggle to begin long-term assignments. So something that is like an end of the year project that they get at the start of the year. They may struggle to manage daily responsibilities. As I said earlier, they may struggle with starting their laundry, getting their meals, cleaning up after their meals, all of the things that they need to do on a daily basis while they're living on their own. They may struggle with that without external prompts. There's other reasons as well. That could be planning. That could be all kinds of other skills, but it might also be initiation. Initiation definitely is not a one size fits all, as we've said. It could be one of the kindling skills that they're struggling with. And even if it's one, if it's perception, the way that they're perceiving could be very, very different from one child to the other. So it really does look different when your child is a master in procrastination. The reason it's happening can be so different from one child to another. In the support circle, that's where we really explore all the frameworks for all of these kindling skills, log skills, the flame skills over time, and keep adding in new lessons. You do have a really good solid base in there, and I'm there to answer any questions. Every single week, I am adding a new lesson to go through at your own pace, at a time frame that works for you, as I'm walking you through. We talk about the unique challenges that you're having in the support circle and the practical strategies that you can be implementing once I learn more about what's going on in your home, what all the struggles are happening, all kinds of things. So we're not like focusing on the right way to develop these skills. We're actually giving a personalized approach because it's frameworks. I'm not saying do this. I'm saying I'm building out frameworks. The goal is really to empower your child to take those first steps confidently and independently while building the foundational skills for effective planning, which is that flame skill, which is a big skill that they're going to need for every single aspect of their life going forward. The link for the support circle is in the show notes. It is a very minimal monthly fee, and you can come in for 1 month, stay for years. It's really up to you. Step out when you have gotten to a point of where you're comfortable, and then you come back when your child has gotten to a new stage and more executive functioning struggles start to appear, or you are ready to tackle more things on your own. It's completely at your own pace, in your own time. Stay for as long as you want. And we'd love to have you as long as you like to stay. So coming up next is cognitive flexibility. That's where your child often gets stuck in that one way of thinking, the black and white thinking, and struggles to consider other perspectives or solutions. Maybe they have difficult handling challenges in plans or routines, or they become frustrated when things don't go as expected. That's one of my sons. These challenges can make every single day situations like group projects, transitions, social interactions, sports, just things in your daily life feel overwhelming for both you and your child. So that's what I'm diving into next. I do want to keep you aware that these are the last skills. So the initiation I did today, cognitive flexibility, that I'm doing in the next lesson of this EF series, are the last that I'm doing as podcast episodes. The rest of these log and fire skills will only be in the support circle. So the link, as I said, is in the show notes. That is it for initiation, and I will see you in the next episode, in the next lesson, where we dive into cognitive flexibility.